Folk Tales. The Jackdaw Girls. Once there lived a mother who had 12 daughters. The 12 girls were very unruly and each had a big mouth. They were always quarrelling with each other. There was never any peace in the house, and one day their mother decided that enough was enough, and so she said, "My ears are full with your quarrels. All of you should turn into jackdaws." They flew through the open door with such haste that they nearly poked her eyes out with their wings. They left the house and took to the air. They disappeared in a westerly direction. The mother became very sad as she missed her daughters very much, but there was nothing to be done. Then she discovered that she was expecting a baby, and when the time arrived, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. When the boy became a little older, he began to ask his mother, "Mother, have I never had a sister or a brother?" And his mother replied, "I have never had any other child except for you, my boy." But later on, the boy heard the talk in the village that he used to have 12 sisters who turned into jackdaws and flew away forever. "Mother, I have heard in the village that I used to have 12 sisters. I will not rest until I find them all." His mother tried to keep the boy at home, but to no avail. So then she filled a sack full of food and let him leave. As the boy was walking, he caught sight of a hermit's shack in the distance, and he arrived there just as the sun was setting. An old woman lived in the little shack, and he had never seen an older woman in his life before. He greeted her. "Good day, old lady." "You are fortunate that you greeted me politely, or else I would have eaten you up. What are you doing in this place that has never been seen by man or beast before?" The boy then told the old woman that he was searching for his 12 sisters who had turned into jackdaws and flown away. "Good. In the morning we shall make inquiries about them." Then she made supper for the boy and they went to sleep. Early the next morning, the old woman stood outside with the boy beside her and she blew hard on an old whistle. All the reptiles of the world gathered around in a matter of moments. The old woman asked the reptiles about a flock of jackdaws that never mixed with the other birds. None of the reptiles had any useful answers to her questions, and so the old woman ordered the reptiles to go home. So they all slithered away. The boy bid farewell to the old woman and left her. After a day's walk, he again arrived at a hermit's shack. He entered the shack and saw an old woman even older than the first. "Good evening, old lady," he said. "You are fortunate that you greeted me politely, otherwise I would have ordered bears to tear you apart. What are you doing in this place that has never been seen by man or beast before?" The boy told her the aim of his search. "Good. Maybe tomorrow morning we shall learn something more about your sisters." The boy went to bed and soon fell fast asleep. The next morning, the old woman stood outside the front door with the boy and blew hard on an old whistle. All the four-legged beasts of the world gathered around the house in a matter of moments. "Do you know anything about 12 jackdaws that always fly alone?" "We know nothing of such birds and we have never heard of them before," the four-legged beast replied. So the old woman sent them home with a wave of her hand. Then the boy became very sad indeed. He thanked her for her troubles and continued on his way. As he was walking, he spotted a third hermit's shack atop a huge rock, and he arrived there as the sun was setting. He walked into the shack and saw that this woman was even older than the two before her. "Good evening, old lady." "You are fortunate that you greeted me so politely, or else I would have had eagles tear you to shreds. What are you doing in this place that has never been seen by man or beast before?" So the boy told her the story of his journey. "Don't be sad, my child. I am sure that tomorrow we shall hear something about your sisters." Then she made the boy something to eat and made his bed. As soon as the sun came up, the two of them stood at the front door and the old woman blew hard on a whistle. All the winged creatures of the world gathered around the house in a blink of an eye. The old woman inspected the birds and then said angrily, "Someone is missing." Soon a raven arrived and one of its wings was bleeding. As soon as I heard your whistle, I began to fly here, but while I was flying, I saw a tall red tower. Tower was so tall that it stuck up through the clouds. And the noise the jackdaws made in that tower was worse than anything I had ever heard before, so I decided to rest a while and listen for myself. People passing by made mention of 12 jackdaws. They said that they had been living there for some years now and never let anyone go near them. But as I was eavesdropping, a hunter came along and shot a bullet into one of my wings. That is why I was late to arrive. Yours was the story we needed. You other birds can go now. So now you know where to go. Your efforts will not be in vain. When you arrive outside the tall red tower, lay these bones down on the ground and think of me. He set out once more, and after many days he arrived at the tall red tower. He did as the woman told him, and the two bones grew into a long ladder, and he could climb up to the jackdaws. He entered a large room where he found 11 of the jackdaws away, and the 12th in the form of a girl. The others were away collecting food. The young girl was afraid at first, but soon she became braver. She showed the boy around their home and explained all that she knew. Then the boy confessed that he was in fact their brother, and he had found them at last. Then they heard the noise of the jackdaws flying home again. So the young girl said, "Hide yourself quickly, because if I am unable to explain who you are, they will surely peck your eyes out." So the girl hid the boy in the 7th room. The 11 jackdaws soon arrived home, where they did a somersault and turned back into girls. Then the eldest of all said, "I can smell the presence of a stranger." And she tossed furniture around in her frantic search for the stranger. Then the youngest girl calmed her sisters and said, "When we left our father's house, our mother was heavy with child. She gave birth to a boy. That boy has spent many months looking for us, and now he is here to take us home to our mother and father. I hid him because I was afraid you would do him harm, because you didn't know why he was here or why he had come." Then the girls went to their brother, and they all embraced him. Before starting home, they all swore to always be good from now on. They climbed down the ladder, and the boy led them home. When they returned to the home of their birth, their mother and father were overjoyed to see their 12 daughters again. From that day on, the girls behaved so very well that they were the pride of their village. All 12 of them found a husband within the year, and all got happily married. And their brave brother found a pretty girl to be his bride, and they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. First the dance, then the feast. Once upon a time there lived a poor man. He had even more children than a sieve has holes, and he owned nothing more than a small house. But then the poor man was forced to move out of his home because his landlord wanted so much corn in payment for his rent that he had to leave. And so the poor man decided to hide. In the forest, he met an old man. and the old man asked the poor man where he was going. The poor man told him about his landlord's cruelty. "Don't be so sad, poor man, because I shall give you a fiddle, and whenever you play it, your landlord will dance." The poor man happily took the fiddle, but told the old man that he was still very hungry indeed and he could not return home with a fiddle. Then the old man gave him the gift of a table. "Whatever you wish for will appear on this table." So the poor man slapped his hand hard on the table and shouted, "Porridge and beans." And when the poor man's belly was full, he set off to go home. When the poor man arrived, he discovered that his cruel landlord had already evicted his dear wife and darling children. "Now I shall pay and you shall dance," and the poor man began to fiddle. And the poor man's landlord danced and danced and danced and grew very tired indeed. But as the poor man played as long as he could, his landlord kept on dancing. When the poor man took a rest, the landlord ran back to the mayor's office to report that he wouldn't stop fiddling. But the poor man followed the landlord back to the office and began to fiddle again. "Dance, landlord, dance!" Then the landlord danced into the office and shouted. The men in the office soon grew bored with the poor man's fiddling and they ordered him to leave at once. "Now you should dance too," the poor man commanded. And everyone in the mayor's office began to dance around. They put down their pens and danced a merry jig together. Then the policeman heard the news and ran to the mayor's office. "Get out of here, poor man!" But the poor man shouted, "Now you should dance too!" And the policemen all began to dance around. The women sent word for policemen to come from the next village, and these policemen soon arrived and tried to chase the poor man away. "Now you should dance too!" Now the whole marketplace was filled with people dancing around. Then the soldiers marched up and the poor man said, "Now you should dance too, as best you can." News of the dancing finally found its way to the king's ears. "Now the king should dance too," the poor man demanded. So the king joined in the frantic dance. The queen of the kingdom contacted the king from the neighbouring land, and this king arrived with his army, and the country was soon filled with his foreign soldiers. The second king called upon the poor man to desist. The two dancing kings put their crowns down at his feet and gave him their lands. So peace returned and the dancing eventually ended. Now all the dancers had grown so hungry and asked the poor man to feed them at last. The poor man took out his table, slapped it and said, "Porridge and beans." Then everyone sat down to enjoy the meal, and the tiny table made more and more and more of the food. The people standing next to the table were lucky, but the ones at the back could not reach the porridge pot, and the people pushed the kings into the beans. The king's shouts were soon drowned out, and both kings drowned in the big pot of beans. No one felt sad that the kings had gone, and all pushed forward to eat their fill. Everyone ate and ate till all was gone, and they all had a splendid time indeed. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Contrary Wife and the Devil. Once upon a time there lived a woman who was very contrary. One day her husband told her to take his lunch to the field an hour early. So instead she took it out an hour late. Another time he told her to take better food out to him, but instead she took worse. Eventually her husband learned to make his requests backwards and said, "Well, well, wife, do not bring stuffed chicken and pancakes to me today, because they are not the kind of food to eat out in the field." It's true his wife took the food out earlier that day, but she did take her husband his stuffed chicken and pancakes. The next day her husband got hard to work and dug a deep pit at the end of the field. And the farmer's wife came to him with his food for lunch. The couple soon settled down next to the pit, and the man said to his wife, "Wife of mine, do not go near to the pit, because you will surely fall into it." But the man's wife still ventured close to the pit. "Wife of mine, take care and do not fall into the pit." But the man's wife fell right to the bottom of the deep pit. Hey! Then the man left his wife where she was, and he went home for his supper. The contrary wife tried hard to climb out of the pit, but it proved pointless. "I would even thank the devil if he got me out of here." "Well, here I am," the devil said to the wife. "I came to get you out. Climb onto my back." So the wife climbed onto the devil's back and he pulled her out of the pit. Then the devil said to her, "Now you can get off." And the woman said, "I will not." So the devil said, "Then take good care, because you will soon fall off." And the devil began to dash madly around the land. Soon the devil grew tired and he said to the woman, "Get off my back this minute." And the woman said, "No, I will not." The devil was tired out and he said to the old woman, "Now get off my back." "No, I will not." The devil was desperate and did not know what to do next. Then he saw a soldier riding by and said, "Good hussar, if you can get this woman off my back, I will make you king." So the hussar got off his horse, walked cursing over to the woman and told her if she did not get off, he would cut her in two with his sharp sword. But the wife said, "No, I will not." So the brave hussar fought the woman with his sword. "Get off his back, good woman, or I will end your life." "No, I will not." Then the hussar said, "If you won't, then stay sitting on the devil." So then the woman said, "No, I will not." And she leapt off the devil's back, and the devil vanished. The hussar went on his way the following day, and the devil was waiting for him under a bridge as he planned to crown him king. The devil saw the hussar riding towards him. He poked his head out from under the bridge and shouted, "Fine hussar, the woman isn't still here, is she?" "She is not, do not fear." And as the hussar reached him, the devil said, "Now I will make you king. You must go to the king's daughter, and during your journey I will possess her soul. And then her hand will be promised to the man who can drive me out of her. But no one will be able to do this, only you. You simply have to say, 'Jump out, because I want to take her.' But should I possess another of his daughters, you must not drive me out, for then I will possess you, and you will never be free of me again." So now the hussar travelled to the town where he heard the news that the king's daughter had been possessed by the devil. decree was made that whosoever could drive the devil out would get the princess and half the kingdom. The hussar was delighted by this news, and so he reported to the palace saying he could drive the devil out. He said to the devil, "Jump out, devil, because I want to take her." Then the devil jumped out right away, and plans were made for the royal wedding. Years passed, and the news came that the devil had now possessed the king's second daughter. The hussar was asked to go out, but he was unwilling because he remembered what the devil had told him before. The hussar was promised treasure and many jewels, and so he eventually went. There he said to the devil, "Devil, jump out of there too, because I want to take her." The devil jumped out right away and was about to attack the poor hussar when he stamped hard on his foot and said, "Do you hear, devil? That woman is coming." Hearing this, the devil began to run and ran away forever and a day.